This has really been a really invigorating day. Lots of interesting topics, lots of interesting perspectives on the future. And much like every other entity in our community, the library organizations have been dealing with many of the same issues that the publishing community have been facing over the past several decades as we've transitioned from an analog environment towards a digital environment. Academic libraries in particular have been addressing this, both from the perspective of building out new systems and changing how they do acquisitions. But it's really transforming not only how libraries work, but how libraries are working together. New collaboration models, not just in terms of collections development, but how do institutions work together, is being affected by changes in technology. As we're thinking about how libraries can be more efficient and more effective in this new digital era. And certainly artificial intelligence tools and the things that we've been discussing throughout the day are impacting the library community as well as the publishing community as well. So joining us to talk about their perspectives and how these technology issues are impacting libraries are Cynthia Hudson-Vitale and Leo Lowe. So they'll be talking about some scenario planning work and some research that the Association of Research Libraries has done, and kind of walking us through some of the impacts of these technologies in the library space. So Cynthia, over to you.
Good afternoon, and thank you. I'm delighted to be here on behalf of ARL to talk a little bit about some of the work we have underway with the Coalition of Networked Information to develop a series of scenarios of what an AI-influenced future may look like across the research environment. So to undertake this work, ARL and CNI charged a task force with developing a set of plausible scenarios, as I said, for an AI-influenced future in the research environment. These scenarios are not limited to just research libraries, but are really meant to encompass the entire spectrum of and stakeholders within the research environment. So publishers, researchers, administrators on campuses, a large swath of stakeholders. So this work actually kicked off in November of 2023, and in a short 6 months, it's gone through a series of initiatives and work to ensure that we represent a wide variety of individuals in the scenarios that we will be presenting just in a few moments. So in December and January, we held focus groups with individuals. We conducted interviews within the ARL and CNI community to surface critical uncertainties and understand the core question for the research environment with regards to an AI-influenced future. In January of this year, we also conducted 6 interviews with AI researchers and thought leaders on the future of AI for the next 10 years. And a draft set of scenarios were published right before the CNI meeting. I know some of the folks perhaps in this room were able to attend and give some initial feedback on those scenarios. And we also completed another set of community listening sessions virtually. So in all, about 400 different individuals and stakeholders have been engaged in this work. And as I said, in just a few moments, we will kind of give you a preview of what we hope to publish by the end of May. So before we jump in, though, I just wanted to do a little bit of background of what scenarios are good for and why it may be useful to think and do strategic planning with them. So scenario planning is a powerful tool in the strategic planning toolbox used during times or in service of topics that have a high degree of uncertainty. In the case of AI, there's significant instability in terms of social acceptance, policy and regulations, intellectual property, issues of trust, and the veracity of AI results. And of course, uncertainty around AI workflows and technical development. Essentially, there's so much uncertainty, it is difficult to ascertain or kind of figure out where to make strategic investments or shifts in resourcing. So through a scenario development process, we can we developed 4 scenarios of a plausible AI-influenced future along a continuum. So you can imagine, like, one scenario you might hear about today may look more like the Jetsons, if you're familiar with that kind of cultural reference, with a robot AI personal assistant, or everything looking harmonization of policies and that sort of stuff, versus a scenario that is perhaps a little bit more dystopian or more divisive in its outlook. So just to kind of provide more context, in the end, the future is never meant to be captured accurately in any one scenario. So you don't just ever say, oh, I'm going with this scenario, this Jetson scenario is totally what we should focus on for our strategic planning process. Instead, what we should do is look across them and find commonalities and robust strategies that apply to all of them. So, the future will be made up of components of each of the scenarios that were developed, possibly. Organizations can leverage these scenarios to conduct SWOT analyses, evaluate ways to mitigate risk, and conduct a thorough analysis of their local implications. As organizations, as I mentioned, analyze the scenarios, robust strategies do start to develop that will apply across all, and will be important for organizations to consider and be proactive about putting in place to move forward. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Leo to introduce the scenarios.
Well, thank you, Cynthia. I just want to add too, this is still in a draft form. We're finishing it by, I think, end of May, right? So as you listen to this, if you have feedback and thoughts, we'd love to hear from you. Feel free to contact us or ask us questions. I'm hitting the buttons. So the task force first came up with 2 critical uncertainties, as you can see in the axis there, to help us frame the different scenarios. So the 2 uncertainties are the intentionality of AI process and design, whether it's anticipative or inadequate, and the societal adaptation of AI, whether it's extensive or limited. So let's talk about intentionality first. So this refers to whether the development and deployment of AI will be guided by thoughtful, responsible, and proactive design principles, anticipative, right? Or it will be haphazard and reactive, leading to perhaps unintended consequences that's inadequate. So the intentionality of AI design really determines the extent to which AI systems align with societal values, prioritize ethical considerations, and address issues such as bias, transparency, and accountability. And the next uncertainty is societal adaptation of AI. So this concerns the extent to which society will embrace and adapt to AI technologies. Extensive adaptation will see AI seamlessly integrated into different aspects of life with widespread acceptance and trust in AI systems. Limited adaptation, on the other hand, will be characterized by hesitancy, skepticism, and perhaps a slower pace of AI adoption. It could be due to concerns about privacy, job displacements, or unequal access. So the usefulness of these uncertainties in scenario planning, lies in their ability to capture the most critical factors that will shape the future of AI and its impact on research libraries and perhaps on publishing industry as well. So let's go through some of the scenarios. So scenario 1. This is a world where anticipative AI design meets extensive societal adaptation. So here we witness a remarkable transformation. Imagine a future where responsible, proactive principles guide AI development, prioritizing ethics, inclusivity, and transparency. Governments, industries, and academia collaborate seamlessly to create standards ensuring the safety and accessibility of AI for all. And research libraries are reimagined as dynamic hubs connecting people, data, and cutting-edge tools. So picture yourself as an AI-enhanced researcher in this world. Your capabilities augmented by advanced human-computer interfaces. At the heart of this transformation lies research libraries, reimagined as the hub connecting people and data and all that. And libraries and librarians and information professionals with expertise in data management and ethics become indispensable partners in the stewardship of AI-driven research. Now, even in a scenario where AI is developed and deployed responsibly with strong collaboration and coordination, there are likely to be still some bumps in the road. For example, as AI becomes more deeply integrated in the research process, there may be questions and debates about the role and value of traditional publishing functions like peer review and editorial curation. If AI can help to identify high-quality research and generate insights and recommendations, some may argue that traditional gatekeeping role of both libraries and publishers may become less important. So there's something we can think about. So while scenario one presents a lot of exciting opportunities, it's important to recognize that it still won't be a perfect, harmonious, and frictionless world. We still need to grapple with complex questions and challenges. So in this world, the roles of librarians and libraries as pipeline or conduit to data, software, and knowledge is woven into research environment. And research libraries can focus primarily on experience with data and software as research objects, physical collections of unique primary source and rare materials that support cultural memory and heritage, including indigenous growing importance and value as resources. And librarians are trusted members, and also librarians develop expertise and advocate for an open development of algorithms and data models.
So turning to scenario two, this is a technocratic artificial intelligence future. In this world, AI's impact on the research and knowledge ecosystem is actually relatively low, with the primary AI advances and impact being seen in the consumer applications and markets. So AI advancements have the greatest impact on the behavior in people in a society in areas like city design, entertainment, social media, and the education nexus. Specifically for this world, tech giants and entertainment industry drive AI innovation. And then, of course, because of that, the knowledge and research ecosystem are controlled by that group of people. Elite research enterprises and tech companies show stronger alliances in this future. And low public digital literacy and a high exploitation of the workforce and consumers is what we would see. Specifically for libraries, they find themselves at a crossroads. Some affiliated with elite institutions thrive as exclusive enclaves with their resources accessible only to a privileged few. Others serving the broader public, but still struggle to keep pace with the rapid technology changes as their budgets are kind of stretched thin. Also within this world, we're proposing that few prestigious institutions serve elite students and AI tech companies offer special training and education. Affordable online learning experiences and applications have actually weakened higher education, and state and community colleges struggle to offer human-enhanced virtual learning. So in this world, the role of libraries, we see a divide increasing between different types of libraries. So public, federal, academic, research libraries will all start to serve vastly different communities of varying needs. Elite institutions maintain their research libraries with sophisticated data and software management capabilities. Resources for data quality and information and data management assistance is still a priority and a role for libraries in this world. And then there's a divide between skills and capacities of information professionals between those who have access and those who don't. So that is just a summary of what the world in a technocratic AI future looks like. I'm going to go ahead and do the next one, and then I'll pass it back to Leo for the final one. So in scenario 3, the intentionality of AI process and design is inadequate, and social adaptation is limited. In this world, it is a world in which AI is adopted too quickly and implemented poorly, and society does not take the time to understand it. The result becomes overreaction and overregulation, or just bad regulation, and increasing separation between the haves and the have-nots. In this world, there's massive data privacy breaches, poorly thought out and unregulated systems and services, low digital literacy, poor data integrity, and kind of even a history that is perhaps easily rewritten given the technology advances. So just some highlights from this world. Complete regulatory failure surrounding machine learning and underlying data is a possibility. And this means that bad players can flood the market with poorly implemented systems. AI is now training itself, but it's built on bias and false information, which means that AI is harming some parts of the population more than others. Many people and institutions are left behind as the world validates and strengthens its existing flawed systems that include many and strengthen and enrich only a few. So I think one of the most challenging aspects of this missed opportunity is doing real societal good with AI. There's no mechanism for harnessing large-scale data, for improving health outcomes, or a similar kind of possibility. The scenario also tends to lead to a lot of overreactions, as was stated, with a focus on a limited number of things, such as overregulating in the name of national security. For the role of libraries, there are some possibilities here with ensuring data integrity. Removing biases and false content will be critical for if we can move ahead in that way. Financially, we see this as the most challenging scenario, but there is a big opportunity to be a broker of trusted content. This will force some reallocation of efforts and shift many to curricular focus. Again, there will be financial implications in higher ed and the public sector, in which we see a reduction in the workforce for libraries. We also see a strong role for librarians and information professionals in advocating for ethical, inclusive development and access to AI. In this world, libraries continue to be trusted by the public, but they're in small number and have little influence. This is definitely like the most negative of our scenarios.
So scenario 4. So this is a world where anticipative AI design meets limited societal adaptation. So we stand at the threshold of a new era, one in which AI becomes increasingly autonomous partner in our quest for knowledge and understanding. So imagine a future where AI systems developed with a focus on transparency, accountability, and ethical considerations begin to exhibit remarkable capabilities, pushing the boundaries of what we once thought possible. Now, picture yourself as a researcher in this world, collaborating with AI agents that possess a level of autonomy and creativity that rivals your own. The lines between human and machine intelligence begin to blur, raising profound questions about the nature of discovery and the role of researchers in this new paradigm. And librarians grapple with questions of intellectual property, data governance, and the preservation of cultural heritage in a world where the very nature of knowledge creation is being redefined. Now, what are the roles of librarians in this world? So, reference services and information management are embedded in AI research platforms directly. Restructuring, deconstructing, and pruning of library functions and workforce. Reskilling of remaining workforce to work effectively with AI, and diminish role supporting research in niche areas, and limited physical collections of unique primary source and rare materials remain for research discovery opportunities that are not possible digitally. We talked about the 4 scenarios, and some of them seem more plausible than others, but we kind of looked at some of the early signs for each of the scenarios and see whether we could head which way we're heading based on these early signs. So for scenario 1, I mean, we see collaborations between governments, industry, civil society, and academia to develop AI guidelines and standards. We're seeing some of that now. Increasing public and private investment in AI structure and research, for sure. Growing public acceptance and trust in AI system driven by positive experience and tangible benefits, debatable. Scenario 2, we see a concentration of AI development in the hands of a few very powerful tech companies, yes, and lack of clear regulation and accountability mechanisms for AI system, yep, and increasing public concern about the unintended consequences of AI, such as privacy breaches and biased decision-making. Now, for scenario 3, that's what we call the worst scenario, slow progress in AI development due to lack of coordination and shared standards. We see public skepticism, mistrust of AI systems, fueled by high-profile incidents of AI failure and misuse, and inadequate investment in AI education and workforce development, leading to widening skills gap. And then the final scenario 4, we see emergence of AI systems with high levels of autonomy and creativity in research and problem solving. And then growing debate around the ethical and philosophical implications of AI autonomy, including questions of responsibility and control. And also slow pace of societal adaptation to AI, with some resistance to the integration of autonomous AI systems into everyday life. So we're seeing a bit of all of that right now. So things go many different ways. So keeping an eye on this for sure. So because we are presenting here at this forum, we, even though this scenario planning is mostly for research libraries and even academia, we thought, why don't we ask AI to come up with some talking points for our publishers friends? So what about publishers? It's not us, it's AI coming with these based on our scenario planning. So scenario 1, there may be questions and debates about the role and values of traditional publishing functions. Right? Another potential challenge in this scenario could be the risk of consolidation and concentration in the publishing industry. And 2, if AI development is primarily driven by commercial interests and there's a lack of clear standards and regulations, publishers might struggle to ensure the quality and integrity of the research they publish. They could also face increased competitions from tech giants who are able to leverage their AI capabilities to create their own publishing platforms and services. Right? 3, divisive AI. Imagine a situation where the AI tools used to support research and publishing are built on biased data and algorithms. This could lead to perpetuation or even amplifications of existing biases and inequities in the scholarly ecosystem. At the same time, scholarly publishers could play an important role in addressing and mitigating these biases. And finally, in the autonomous AI scenario, with anticipative AI design and limited societal adaptation, publishers could be at the forefront of defining new models for research communication and dissemination. As AI becomes an increasingly autonomous partner in the research process, publishers will need to rethink traditional notions of authorship, peer review, and intellectual property. So hopefully these are some conversational starters for you to think about.
One last thing before we open it up for your questions. So the next steps on the AI scenarios, as I mentioned, they'll be published by the end of May. We will then host a strategic implications workshop for our community. We'll dig into them pretty intensely and determine what are the key issues we need to address as a community to proactively prepare for any of these futures. There'll be a toolkit that's published that will allow our members to leverage the scenarios and know how to use them if they want to use them locally at their institutions to prepare for any of these futures. And then we'll we will, I don't know why I'm saying hopefully, there will be a series of workshops this winter and into early spring where we'll support our members at ARL in leveraging the scenarios for their local use.
Thank you both.